Everyone was super bullish, but there were warning signs for Bitcoin. Let's get into it. First of all, Bitcoin was squeezing in this symmetrical triangle, and the price was compressing and compressing and compressing until a breakout. The target for these breakouts would have either been over 74K or down below to 70K. We currently broke out of this symmetrical triangle, and we are now tagging the 71K mark, right when everyone was getting overly bullish. First of all, with the US elections coming up, it was always going to be a moment of volatility. And if you look at the markets, that is exactly what we're getting. Yes, Trump is leading, but that is besides the point. There will always be some volatility around these huge macro events, such as the US election. Some more insane news that came out before we started dumping is the fact that MicroStrategy announced a $42 billion capital plan, including $21 billion ATM equity offering and a target of raising $21 billion in fixed income securities. That is a ton of Bitcoin to be purchased by MicroStrategy. In fact, their plan is actually the equivalent of buying $38.3 million of Bitcoin every single day for the next 3 years. So if you thought you were bullish, no one is as bullish as Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. Then we have our ETF inflows. ETF inflows are a very good indicator as to when the market could potentially see a local top. I mentioned this several times in some of the previous videos, but every single time that the ETF inflows exceeded $500 million in a single day, it marked the time that we could expect a local top in the price of Bitcoin. This time around, it was 2 days of just under $900 million in inflows. Things were really heating up, and as usual, you need to be cautious. A correction was always going to be underway. Now, I put out a tweet earlier today saying that Bitcoin was on the verge of closing its highest monthly candle ever. Can we have a correction before we revisit the all-time highs? Yes, of course. And indeed, a correction has been occurring. Now, here's the thing. You do need to zoom out and look at the fact that Bitcoin will likely be trading at much higher prices in 2025. Zoom out because this monthly Halloween close, despite the current dump, could be extremely bullish for what's to come for Bitcoin. Another way that you can get a clear insight as to where the market is headed is to measure the whale activity versus retails. As we can see, the perpetual whales on Binance were trimming their longs versus retail all day on Wednesday. And every time they start trimming their longs, it marked a local top as well. I am keeping this chart handy to tell me when we could see local tops in the price of Bitcoin. This has been a very strong indicator every single time we've seen a correction for Bitcoin. Another thing to consider is that whales actually started building a short position versus retail. That is not usually a bullish recipe. So we need to see now how far this correction can actually go. Now, if you remember correctly, I put out this tweet talking about what my conditions were for me to get extremely excited about Bitcoin and to start celebrating. The first test that we succeeded was holding 70K as support on the daily. And the second test is on the weekly time frame. So of course, holding 70K is very bullish as well. The next really important thing is to break above our previous all-time highs at around 73.8K. We have yet to do that, coming within $200 of the prior all-time high. So where do I see us heading? Well, the fact that we're still hovering over 71K, in my mind for the long term, is a bullish sign for Bitcoin. So long as we don't break below the 70K mark, my bias is to be bullish going into the elections. That being said, the elections will undoubtedly create a lot of volatility, both to the upside and downside. So you need to be cautious with using leverage during these periods in the market. Once again, it's my duty to talk about Bitcoin dominance. We have actually broken out of this range. So as Bitcoin toys around with us around all-time highs, alts are continuing to bleed. And in my opinion, we will only see a period of outperformance with alts when Bitcoin finally breaks its all-time high and starts consolidating. That is the period you want to look for alts to truly outperform. But for now, Bitcoin dominance is as bullish as ever. And so, whether Bitcoin has an even larger correction or it starts exploding to the upside, Bitcoin dominance looks very likely to continue going up. This is not a period for your altcoins. If I pull up this chart by Benjamin Cowan, he seems to think that alts could tag the bottom of this trend line at around 0.25 before sustainably moving up. This may seem a little bit extreme, but it could happen. We've seen the way that Bitcoin has been moving. This kind of volatility below the previous all-time highs is not a great environment for altcoins, and so they could very well bleed a lot more. So please be careful. The good thing about this chart is that if altcoins do indeed tag the bottom of the range around 0.25, it would indicate that we could see an even stronger bounce for altcoins in 2025. So as we start approaching the bottom of this range, it's already a very good idea to start looking into which altcoins you'd like to accumulate for the upcoming bull market and to make sure that you're following whatever plan you set out for yourself. So again, to reemphasize, there will be a lot of volatility around the elections, and it has already started 4 days before. My conditions for the market to start performing extremely well is for Bitcoin to hold the 70K mark on the daily, weekly, and monthly, and for us to finally break past all-time highs. So far, we have to consider that we just fell below this line of resistance. If we end up closing below here, it could get very messy. Wherever the price of Bitcoin trends towards, it is still very likely that Bitcoin dominance will continue to go up and alts will continue to bleed. This is regardless of if we break past all-time highs or if we see an even larger correction. That sums up today's video. Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.